leave lots of time.
March or February?
I'm sorry, February 15th, thank you. February 15th. You can come March 15th, but nobody will be here. So come February 15th instead. February 15th, 7 o'clock, Wareham Middle School Auditorium. Deborah May will be the presenter from Massachusetts Aggression Reduction Center, and there will be time for parents to be able to answer questions. In addition, people can expect to have the addendums to the student handbooks come out, and also in mid-May, there will be a completion of the service personnel training, bus drivers, cafeteria workers, and so forth. During the summer, there will be a development of the annual staff training document for the fall, so the principals will have in their hands, when they have their orientations in the fall, a document to be able to use to the initial training during all of the orientation things that they do on the first day of school. And hopefully the K-12 curriculum will be in place as we go through next year. In the summer, we will review and revise the plan as we need to tweak, and as laws change and as case law tells us we need to do different things. Questions? This is a good time to, I'm going to stop.
Well, I was just going to say, why don't you finish and then we'll ask all that question.
Okay, and I'm actually done, and I asked Donna, I promised Donna that she didn't have to talk too much, but she promised to make me a cake if I... So I'm going to move the microphone over, and you can ask any of us questions that you would like, and we'll be done.
Okay. Let me start on this side.
Can I make a comment for questions? Yeah, well, all right. I want to publicly thank Mr. Luzon who put this on, and as you can see from the detail of the plan, there was an awful lot of work that went into this, a lot of thought, a lot of listening, a lot of working with people. But I don't want anyone to walk away thinking that bullying is gone from life, not just schools, but in life, because unfortunately it is still here, and we're going to have to do an awful lot of work within our curriculum, within the schools, with parents. Parents need to parent children. They need to keep hold of the access to the internet, smartphones, and everything that they can do on them. And people need to learn to be kind to people. And that has to happen. And we can't do it ourselves in the school. It is a total community activity between church and school and community. And we need everybody's help. And when I've received a few phone calls where we've handled the item in the schools, parents are still not satisfied, and that's the part I want to make sure people understand. We have a problem resolution in place so that Bob then becomes, from the outside, not being in the school, an arbitrator to listen to the parent and find out what has been done and have a second look at it and go back to the school to make sure that all the steps have been followed and that we have the services in place. So, if it doesn't work and people aren't satisfied, we do have another level, just like we do with our harassment policy. And Bob, being the Title IX coordinator, this also felt to him. So I just wanted to make sure that was understood before the questioning began.
Thank you for that point of clarity.
Can I start with Jamie? Because I know that she had a question right off the... Okay. All right, Jessica, sorry. Okay, all right. First, Bob, I want to thank you and also the committee for all of the hard work that went into this. I can't even imagine the discussions that went on in that room, just because it's all over the place today. Cyberbullying is everywhere today, so I just commend you for all of the hard work and all the work that went into this policy. I do, just a quick statement, I do think that it's important for adults to lead by example. I see cyberbullying going on today with our own the people in our community. And it's very, very important that parents as well as community members lead by example to show our children that it's just not acceptable to bully people through any means, whether it's the media or not. And the only other statement that I would make is I would love to see in the media, in the papers, similar to how we put the town warrants and getting ready for a town meeting, all of the articles, if they take this document and they publish it. I think that it would just go a long way if you have 1 or 2 pages dedicated to the school's bullying prevention plan, so everyone has a chance to take a look at it, and maybe it'll do good also in our community. Again, leading by examples. Just a couple questions that I have. One is, I saw a lot in here about annual staff training. As my former job, when I was a manager, it was a requirement that I had to go through a harassment training on a yearly basis annually. I had to go through harassment training and then also sign off with HR. Is there a plan to do annual training for students, have this part of the student orientation? And so it's I know it's going to be in the handbook, but having it part of the orientation in the very beginning, and then having a separate document outside of the student handbook where we're required to sign off around what the bullying policy is.
Part of, and Dr. Rabinowitz, correct me if I'm wrong, part of the student orientation is to review the district handbook and the code of conduct and so forth. That is the opportunity, I believe, as students walk in the door in the fall, to remind them about the components of bullying, remind them of their obligation as bystanders and as aggressors, and the teeth, if you will, behind this new thing. This is a new piece of legislation, and so I think that's one of the opportunities to do that. The second, for example, at the high school level, would be during the advisories to be able to look at those situations that are bubbling. A lot of the work that we do behind the scenes, and I say we, and I'm not going to include me in that because it may not include me, is to look at, to have a pulse of what is going on and use that information during advisories to try to quell situations that come up, intervene, and so forth, so that happens. The other very good thing I think about the investigation process is that for example, at the high school, I had 4 people that were trained as investigators. They were also in very key roles where they can see what is happening, and we want to intervene before we have to investigate. I mean, that's really what our goal is. But that would be another part of it. The third part of it is through the curriculum, and I could certainly, if we had an afternoon to do this, show you some of the things that are very, very powerful around getting kids to realize what the impact is. For example, as you're a bystander, you're not doing anything wrong. You're just watching. You're not egging anybody on. You're not doing any bad things. You're a good kid that just is watching and being passive in what you do. So the curriculum really is around trying to get kids to step up, to be supportive, to be respectful in ways that allows them to stop something. They're an extremely powerful force in stopping things from happening.
And that's why I think I've seen some videos that are out there that kind of gives the student a visual on the do's and don'ts, whether it's what you're witnessing, when to get involved, the do's and don'ts around getting involved, or what it means to get involved. And so I'm hoping that the communication plan when it comes to students, that's something that continues to kind of grow on all different ways that we can make sure that this is in front of students, so then we're taking a proactive approach than what you're saying. What a lot of this is identifying it and then stopping it, more things around preventing it from happening.
That's correct. And I just want to show you very quickly, I think I can do this quickly, that parents have a great opportunity, a great link. If you look at this page, and right up in this corner, Parents in Public, because there is just a terrific amount of information. This is the Massachusetts Aggression Reduction Center that gives great information about how to handle some of those things. Texting tips, when your child is being bullied, cyberbullying, social networking sites, just not only for parent information, but for student information about what to do and what not to do.
And there's a link to this from the Student Services page on...
I will check. If I didn't put a link in, I will put a link in.
Okay, great. Just, I have several questions, but I can talk to you offline. I want to be able to give other people a chance. The kind of group of questions that I have really have to do with how are you going to evaluate whether this is working? What is the long-term plan for evaluating if we have the right policy? Have you guys talked about that? And if so, if you can give me just a short overview of kind of what that looks like on, how can we measure whether this is working or not, our communication?
I think that we're going to see it in our discipline reports, the nature of the discipline reports, and also just the feedback from the advisors. For example, at the high school, the advisors and the assistant principals at the elementary schools and so forth, to see how quickly things are diminishing. The hard data will certainly be through the discipline reports. How many of them are a result of a bullying event?
There's also the survey that goes home to students and parents that ask that specific question about their feelings about how much bullying was going on.
Right, and what was so great about having both of them, this will be the last thing I say, but it was so great having this presentation come right before the school improvement plans and the surveys, because I think that when taking a look at the surveys, we should take a good look at some of the questions to parents, to staff, and students, and see if there are any additional questions or if we need to tweak those questions based on what we've seen tonight.
I agree.
Okay.
And I do believe also, wasn't our committee going to, we are planning on reconvening again to go over, after it's been in place for a while, I don't know if we had said 6 months or what we had said.
You're absolutely right. As part of that annual review, we asked the committee if they would come back together, look at what we had as data around what was happening, and to get their input about, as members of the PTAs and other parent organizations in town, how they felt things were going with the information that we had to give them.
Thanks. Thank you very much.
Okay.
On the professional development, is the plan for every employee in this, or is this just something for the teachers?
The March 1st training will be specifically for professional staff and paraprofessional staff, so our teaching assistants along with our teachers. I went through the trainer of trainers thing, so I will do the training, a set of trainings for the bus drivers, I'll do a set of training for the cafeteria workers and so forth. Clearly, as much as time is just so tight that if Jeff Taker were to say to me after the first time that I presented, you know what, if you have that in a PowerPoint presentation, if you put some audio behind it, and it would fit into when I have my bus driver meeting, great. I'm more than willing to sort of make it adjust to what makes sense for those particular departments. School cafeteria workers, I don't know whether 9 o'clock in the morning or 1 o'clock in the afternoon, or how you get them all together as a group. Do I go from school to school? So I think that whatever those directors, those leaders in those different departments say this is what they'd like to see, then I would do that. And the same with the schools too. If they say to me during the first couple of days of school, I'd much rather have you come in and do it, and I can do it. I can be in 5 schools within those 3 hours and do it. I would do that.
I would imagine that there's a greater chance of the bullying taking place on the buses, where there's less absence of a teacher present, but also the training should include the custodial staff or anything, because that's usually the case where something like that might take place. I think in the presence of the teachers, students might use a little caution. I'm not sure that happens, so I just want to make sure that everybody is included in that development.
Well, and I would also be open to sharing the language, the logic for other community representatives, coaches, and police officers, to be able to say, look, here's just the language of it. here's how it looks different than when every single police officer or every clergy member or every single one of those people, when we were 16 or 18 or 25, it just looked very different than it looks now. I can tell you that I think many of you know that I do counseling and have for quite a long time, and that when I'm just going to say a 13-year-old